Hi, girls. Welcome back to the It's a Girl's Life podcast. I am so excited today because we have such an amazing conversation coming up for you guys with Megan, the founder of Link Up Co. And we're going to be talking all about her business, all about how she balances it all and stays authentically herself. So if you guys are listening on if you're watching actually on the video, you can see my room's in the background. You can see Megan on the screen. And I'm just super excited to hop on into this conversation. But before we go into all things about Megan, what she's created, I think it's always really good to start off with an intention. And let's just use this next moment to come back to the present moment. You're listening to this podcast. Maybe you're multitasking and doing something else. That's usually me. I'm usually like listening to podcasts in the car. And let's just remember that we are here and we're listening to this conversation because we want to be our authentic selves. We're working on bringing out that version of ourselves that is the best version, the one that people want to be around. Let's refresh, reprioritize, and just be imperfectly you, I guess, in a way. And from experience, and I think Megan would probably agree, people want to be around that most authentic version of yourself. So are we ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay, let's hop into some questions. So Megan, I want you first to introduce you to our listeners, kind of say a little bit of the background, and then we can get into some more focused questions.
Perfect. So my name is Megan. As was mentioned, I founded a business called Link, which is basically a social media platform to help connect content creators with each other and with other businesses and brands as content creation and influencing becomes more of kind of like a big thing, especially among young people. Yes. Huge, one might say. Yes. Oh. In my spare time, not really. I actually am in grad school to be a physician assistant. And that actually takes up 23 hours of the day. So in my spare time, I actually do a lot of content creation and run this business. So it keeps me busy, but I love it all. So that's a little bit about me.
That's amazing. I have two follow-up questions. One, where did you go for undergrad?
Yes, forgot that. So I went to Binghamton University, which is kind of right on the southern border of New York. I studied neuroscience there, which then allowed me to get into grad school. I graduated in 2018, so I'm 25 right now. So.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Wait, that's so crazy because I totally, I knew that you went to grad school because I heard it on a different podcast, but I totally did not know that you were already that so much into your life and out of college. That's crazy.
I forget sometimes too. Sometimes I'm still oh yeah, I'm a junior in college, so it's fun.
No, that is so fun. And I think what's really cool is just this story starts so much earlier than obviously right now. And a thing that I always think about is when you hear someone's story, I think it's really important to pull out the piece that you're listening to their version of themselves right now, but they could have been so many years in the making.
That's true.
And I think that is why it's perfect to start off our first question let's start from the beginning. We have a lot of high school listeners. So I would love to start off with what were you like in high school? Maybe some of your biggest challenges that you faced in high school and kind of just what was that experience like for you?
Okay. So high school, I know a lot of people are kind of high school sucks, but to be honest, I neither hated nor, college was definitely the best years of my life, right? But high school for me was just going to school every day. I played soccer, I played softball, so I was friends with those people. But one thing I really look back on in high school, I'm right now, I'm not friends with anybody I was in high school. Literally nobody. All my friends are my college friends and people I've met after that. So I had a lot of friends in high school and I did have close friends at the time, but after graduation, I guess I just, you find new people, you go to different cities and you just, I don't know, you lose contact with people. But
right.
So, high school is just, for me, it was just high school. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And also one thing that I kind of struggle with the idea right now, being a senior, looking at colleges and knowing all my friends are kind of going into different places. It's just that idea of knowing that some relationships are going to fizzle out and that's okay. And also another thing that I was struggling with was high school is a really amazing time because not only you find out who you like, you find out more about yourself than I think anything. And I also think you find out like who are these people who I do want to stay in contact with further on, and who are the people who I probably, might say goodbye to in this transition. Or, just like, is that everybody? You never know. And I think it's just like finding out those people that give you energy. So I think it's like really important to highlight that part about like the reality that you didn't stay in touch with anybody, and that's okay, because like
right. And I mean, some people I know, like their best friends are still their high school friends. So there's really no way to know, and it's different for everyone. So like, don't let that scare you. But
yeah,
like you said, exactly, like life is all about like relationships starting and ending, and
I guess so.
Happens. So
no, yeah, that's such a good tip. Well, I would love to move on and kind of talk more about this industry of content creation. You're a content creator yourself. You're also starting this community that is for content creators to be able to connect with people and learn more about like branding and collaboration and how to really set yourself up for success in the industry. I would love for you to talk about more about Link, what you guys do, what you provide, but also then like the balance of also being your own content creator yourself.
Yeah. All right. So Link, like I said, it's a network platform community to connect creators with other creators. And that might be like, you decide today, I want to do this. Or if you're like me and you've been doing this for a little while. So there's really no requirements, I would say, to be part of it, except like a willingness to like learn and meet new people. So that's like part of one big half of what we do is connect those creators with each other. The other big half of what we do is coordinate campaigns or collabs, as a lot of people call them, with businesses. And for Link, I really like to focus more on like small businesses or like up and coming businesses, because that's kind of the whole premise of it, is to help people who are getting started really like build a foundation and, kind of realize who they are and what they want out of this. So we coordinate these campaigns with brands, and then all the creators have the chance to apply to the campaigns. And it's really just a way to kind of get some experience, get, some work under your belt that you can like add to your portfolio and use to kind of further your content creator career, I guess.
Right. No, that's so interesting. And I think like one thing or one question I have to follow up with that is just like, who has been your favorite brands to be able to work with? And also, what do you think the biggest benefit is of creating a community that kind of normalizes the struggles, but also teaches you how to kind of overcome those with content creation specifically?
So favorite brands, I mean, honestly, I've loved them all. I think the ones that the creators are most interested in are like clothing brands and jewelry brands. So we've done a lot of those. They've been super successful and super fun. And then to kind of go into your other question, I think a good thing about being part of a community is obviously that you're able to relate to other people and kind of share both your struggles and your successes. And, there's other people around to kind of speak on those and say, hey, I've been through that too, and it sucks right now. Or, hey, I've been through that too, but this is how I grew from it. And this is what I learned from it. So I think that's a really big benefit, especially if you're just starting out there. This is like an industry, like I said, there's a ton to learn, and it's hard to kind of learn everything on your own if you really have no idea what you're doing. So that's what I like about it most.
Right, I know. And just like speaking on broader experiences, I guess, for more girls to relate on, like what Megan just said about building community in everything that it doesn't have to be surrounding around content creation. I think that something that's really important is to be able to find a group of people who support you, and that's community in a different way. And that might be a smaller way than like joining a group of girls who are working towards the same common goal, which is also very important. But I just think to pull out what you said specifically is just like being open also about your struggles and also your wins as well, so people can support you and can actually like have an opportunity to then talk about it. I think like that's a really big thing with like being vulnerable is really important, so you can open up about those opportunities, and then it kind of like opens the stage for anyone else who wants to share and talk about it and help you too, which is a really important like thing just to think about in everyday life kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I think that was such a great answer just about Link and learning more about it. I would love to know if there are girls out there who want to do something, they want to start their content creation career, they want to start going after it, they want to follow your footsteps, what do you think should be their first step into doing so?
So I'm actually going to kind of broaden this to really anything that you want to do. So,
yes.
Yeah. So like high school, college is the time to figure out like, what the heck do I want to do with my life? Mm-hmm. And the biggest tip I can give anybody about like chasing your dreams or like getting to where you want to be, or just even taking the first step, is to, anything you do, it's going to take hard work. You have to be willing to get out there every single day and put like, even if it's just 5 minutes, put a little bit of time each day, and eventually those steps will add up to like something really huge, yes. Right? Yeah. Biggest advice is like, be a hard worker. Like your work ethic is going to shine through like everything, and people are going to see that and appreciate that. So you have to be a hard worker, like no matter what you're doing. Second thing, and this is really huge for me and kind of goes along with the whole theme of your podcast, is you always have to be yourself. Like you have to be a genuine person. You have to, just express who you are and what you want, because people can see when you don't. And people are less likely to, want to be around someone who's not genuine. Yep. Like you can see right through it. And it's just like, that person is, they're not who they are. And it's just not a good look. That's just what I've always thought. So, no matter what you want to do, work hard, be yourself, and just like, don't give up until you're where you want to be.
Definitely. I think one thing to add to that is just like more than people can see through it. But I think that people won't trust someone as much if they don't think that they're seeing that person's most authentic version of themselves. And I think the most authentic version of yourself is really where you can grow to connect with people and make real connections. And that's based on being honestly vulnerable, open to new experiences, and just sharing about like the things you've learned, the things you've made mistakes on, or kind of just in general, how you've grown over time. I think is also a really important thing to touch on there. And I would also love to hear your opinion on this. Okay, wait, this is actually a side point. I also want to hear about your opinion on this thing. So I'm going to start there. So I want to hear your opinion on trying to balance it all, balance in quotes, because I think everything is, a lot of reprioritization and just picking out what's the most important thing at that moment. So I would love to hear about, how do you balance something, or like, what is your opinion on balancing something, with being also like a student, and you also have this thing that gives you a lot of excitement. So it's not like you should, just say like, I can only be a student or I can only be a friend. Like, how do you balance it all?
Great question, because it's something I have to do literally every day. PA school, it's grad school. Some people consider it like one of the most rigorous programs. It's, to give you an idea, a lot of people don't know what a PA is, but PA school is essentially like medical school in half the time. So it's a lot of work.
Gosh, that is so overwhelming, because I always feel like medical school is like 7 extra years or something.
Yes, it is. And there's huge differences between the professions. This is not to say one is better than the other or anything, but essentially the didactic curriculum of PA school is you're learning almost all of what you would learn in medical school in half the time. Right. So just to give everyone a sense of like how crazy it is, to be honest. So this year, it's actually funny. I started to take content creation seriously when I started PA school. So not sure how that happened, but really, so kind of like you said, you have to kind of balance your priorities with your passions. And it doesn't mean you have to give one up or, put something aside, but you have to say, like, for me, school has to come first. It is what it is. I'm here to start my career, to start this thing I've been working on for years and years. So school always has to come first. But for me, content creation has kind of been like I don't want to say hobby, because it's a very serious thing, but like my passion.
It's like your fun thing to do that gives kind of a break from school, but is still like you're impacting people, obviously, and you're fulfilling yourself in a way.
Exactly. So it's really like a way for me to kind of take like a mental break from studying and do something fun. That's just, honestly, it's just like really fun for me. So I kind of just balance it, saying like, I need to get this stuff done, and then I will have this time to do this other stuff. So, obviously it's going to be different for everyone depending on what you're doing, but just realizing what has to be done, and then also leaving time for the things you want to do is really important.
Love that. And I also want to ask you about how have you been able over time to develop healthy habits when sometimes it's just something's not going to get done and that's okay. But what do you need to like sometimes I feel like you even need to prioritize you and yourself and your own mental well-being over all of the work and everything that's happening kind of on the outside. How do you decide like when is the time where I need to actually take a step back and neither do any of these things and then take that moment so I can actually go back and be able to, fulfill my potential in the things that need the time and the energy?
So I like to every day after class, I usually take about like an hour to just like sit on the couch or watch TV or scroll through Instagram, whatever it might be, just to like kind of give my brain a break from the day, decompress, and like regroup for a night of studying. So that's like one tip that you can definitely weave into every single day, and really anybody can do. It's just take an hour every day to do whatever the heck you want. And then as far as knowing kind of when you have to stop, for me, when I get to the point where I'm like staring at a textbook and I'm getting absolutely nothing out of it, or I'm reading the same line 27 times, at that point, even if you have a massive test the next day that you're not prepared for, like sitting there, just like driving nothing into your brain and like freaking out, at that point, it's like, all right, shut the book and go to bed and start over in the morning, because you're really at that point just not helping yourself. So that's kind of how I know when it is.
Right.
When it gets that bad. But yeah.
No, I think that's great. I think that's a great point, because like someone who was maybe the listeners can relate to this, someone who just really wants to do really well in their academics, I would always, push myself to the last possible minute. It was a lot of like burnt out feeling at the ends of the week, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm literally so exhausted. And then I don't know, it was just kind of like the switch that happened that I realized, like, if you are just draining yourself, you are not going to be able to perform to the ability you want to be. So at some point in the night, you got to shut down the books, just like you said, and it's time to go to bed and like get some sleep, because like sleep can make a world of a difference, but more it's just like, I don't know if it's just me, maybe it's you too. Like the mornings are my literal favorite time of the day, because I feel like I just got this whole day in front of me to do literally whatever I want and get everything I need to do and learn it, or whatever that might mean. But I would also like to ask you what your morning routine is, because I'm someone who's big into routine habits and like, doing things repetitively. So it gets just, kind of like you can do it without thinking about it in a way. So I would love to hear what your morning routine is, especially since you have so much to balance.
So gotta be honest, my morning routine is typically like I have to be at class like 8:30.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's pretty early. Usually I get out of bed at like 7:30, brush my teeth, wash my face, get dressed, and go to class. But this month has kind of been like a more chill month before we go out on clinical rotation. So it hasn't been such a crazy schedule. We've had class like later in the day. So I actually recently in the last few weeks have been trying to wake up a little bit earlier, like 6, 7, and like letting myself have like an hour to just like sit and drink coffee and like
I love to do.
Yes, it's so nice. Or like put on some like chill music, or like watch TV, read a book, whatever it might be. And I gotta say, it is like you said, it's my favorite time. Like it's so nice just to have that nice hour to just like absorb it all.
Right. So. No, I so agree with that statement. I think it's so important to find, like, for our listeners, find out the time that you feel like you can take some minutes for you. And even if that means like waking up a little bit earlier, I say do it, just because it will really like allow you to set yourself up for the day, and it will be able to like make sure you can be that like best version of yourself when you got to go into the hard stuff. But I also think what's important to know is that, not everyone's a morning person. Like, I feel like the fact that I am can be sometimes debatable, because like a lot of my friends might not be. And I'm also like waking up at 6, and it's like school starts at, 8:30, just like you said. So one thing I would say is just like, if you aren't a morning person, that doesn't mean you should like start waking up so early and trying to do that, because if that does not fulfill you, if that does not fill you up and make sure you can be your most authentic self, it's not worth it. So you got to find out the times you're most productive, you feel like you can get the most done, you're most energized, and how you can actually get to that feeling as well. So the times when you don't feel that way, what are some things you can just kind of like pull out a toolbox, honestly, if you're thinking of it like that, so you can get back into that grind or whatever you're working on, I think is also just a good note to highlight on.
Sure.
Yeah. So this conversation, I'm just like really enjoying our little talk today, but also I want to know one thing you wish you knew before going into high school and one thing you wish you knew before going into college.
Oh boy. Okay. Give me a second here.
No, yeah, you're good. I know like some of these like heavy weighted topics can be really hard to come up with answers.
I've never thought of this before. Okay. Before going into high school. Okay, maybe I'll do this backwards. Before going into college, I think I wish I knew that it's not always going to be clear what people's intentions are. Things might start out one way and like be great, and then like you'll realize, oh, this person actually didn't want that, and a lot of times it's a big letdown. So I think from that I've learned, like, when you're meeting new people, like, obviously be yourself and be who you are, and like you don't always have to know what you want out of like a certain relationship with someone, and this can be like romantic or, you know, platonic friendships or professional, whatever. But just like, I don't want to say like keep your guard up, but just like always have in the back of your mind, like, just because you're being authentic doesn't mean everybody else is, and it doesnn't mean that everybody, just the way they're acting is going to be how they always act. So just like kind of understanding that people don't always show their true colors, or they don't always, like, you know, things don't always work out how you thought.
Yeah, no, I think that's very important. I think I've definitely had some interesting experiences where, you know, I thought they were kind of keep what I was saying to themselves. Turns out they didn't, and got me in kind of a troubling situation. But I think honestly, like, the important thing about that is that I think you need to focus on yourself, and you need to make sure you're showing up as your most authentic self all the time, as we've been saying, but also just be that people won't always show up exactly how you think they should show up. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. And just like, don't, even because you're working on yourself to be your best version of yourself, lots of people have lots of different journeys they're going on. They're trying to balance this whole thing called life and social life and so many different things. They're just trying to figure it out themselves. Maybe they have something going on. You could totally not know about it. And just don't assume that everyone's kind of like on the same pathway as you are, because there's so much happening in other people's lives. So you might just never know.
And actually that was like a perfect segue, because I just realized what my high school one would be. And it's kind of that not everybody is on the same timeline. Not everybody is on the same pathway. Like, everybody's life is obviously very different and influenced by a multitude of factors and events and values and people around them. And that causes everybody to just like do things at different times. So like, I mean, in high school, like I would see like, oh, these girls like all have a boyfriend, or this person is like doing this awesome job and they know what they want to be when they grow up. And like, that definitely was not always the case for me. And I think sometimes we see people maybe doing better than we are, and we're like, oh, I wish I had that. It doesn't mean you won't have that. It just means that like now is not the time for you for that. And it will happen, but timing is literally everything. Like, if you don't believe that, start to believe that, because it is absolutely true.
I think that is amazing. I mean, I think that there's so much comfort in a way of knowing that you are going to have your time, and just because right now is not the time when you might have all this going on that someone else is, like you said, like that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And I think like definitely we're all on our separate paths just trying to figure it out. So honestly, I think something that we all need to work on, honestly, me as well, is just like, you got to recognize we're all just trying to figure it out, taking it day by day, and we're all human, and, you know, we're all on our different paths, and we're just trying to figure it out and kind of like get out the most of every experience. And that could look different, and it could look so different to different people as well.
Yeah.
So, as our last two questions, I thought it would be great to ask you getting back to this topic of balance, just because I think it's such an interesting one. And with different people, we all balance things differently. How do you balance being Megan the creator, Megan the founder, Megan the sister, the friend, how Megan the student? Like, how do you try to like balance in a way all of that while being truly your authentic self?
So I think it kind of comes down to being your authentic self, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like I think like we all have these various roles that we play, like you mentioned, students, brothers and sisters, daughters, friends, blah blah blah, whatever it might be. But I think in order to be like the best version of all those things, you have to know like who you are and you have to know what those things mean to you. And if you're not like being authentic in each of those various roles, like it's just like hard to put into words, but I think you
Like,
just have to go ahead.
no, I was just thinking like I think it's like one thing I think it comes down to is self-awareness. Like
Yeah,
you just have
yeah,
to
that's a
know
good.
that you have to know kind of like what's going on inside of you. How do you feel right now around these different groups of people, different relationships, as you said,
Yeah,
and then stick with those that feel good and let go of the ones that either like in your gut, like a gut feeling, don't
yeah,
in a way,
right.
which
Yeah,
is kind of hard, but it's also like one of the things that I've been working on most recently is just like intuition and and how things feel. And if they don't feel right, I think it's not meant to be. And like I think you just kind of know, which is really weird. So you have to like kind of tune in
no,
and
you do,
when
like
you
some,
know, you
yeah,
know. But when you
exactly.
don't, it's like either can like I think the emotions can play a lot into this and kind of psychology-ish, I guess.
Yeah,
Um, I think that like emotions, the way you feel, those things have a big role in this, and you definitely just have to stay true to those and don't reject how you feel because it could be telling you a sign that
yeah,
either you have to change or you should continue to like hang out with those types of people.
right. And I think also like who you are in each of those different roles is going to change too. Like, I mean, as a student, I'm like very professional and like, quiet, like sit in class, learn. But as a friend, I'm like crazy and like loud and like fun and whatnot. So it's, I mean, there's obviously different versions of yourself and you kind of play into those based on the situation. So again, that self-awareness, just like knowing when to be this way versus this way, I think is a huge thing.
Yes, that makes so much sense. And I honestly never thought about that. I think one thing at least that I struggled with is like kind of getting confused between those and like not allowing myself to truly, be that different version of myself when it changes with who I'm like with. Because I think I thought that, if you're being yourself, you're kind of like one version of yourself all the time. But I think you make a great point that like you guys, you can be different versions of yourselves because you're being yourself with different people. And like obviously you might be talking about say like school with your parents, but that doesn't mean you have to be like the same person you are as a student to your parents or to your friends. And like
Yes.
be different situations, and like you should let yourself be able to be what feels right in those situations and change depending on that. And that's not a bad thing. You don't have to stick yourself in a box to just act like one type of person all the time.
Yes. Totally agree.
Oh,
Totally agree.
that's such a smart thought because I honestly never thought of it like that. And like it's true, like these are different people and they have different meaning to you, and you're trying to learn different things from them and getting different things also from them as well in a way. Like if you're a student, you'd obviously like, try to get help from your teacher, you're trying to learn a concept. But if it's a friend, you're trying to get advice, you're trying to relate on something and feel comfortable and stuff like that. So I think that's like such a good idea to focus on and like to talk about and mention to all the girls listening today. And then our last question, which is just one that I love to ask everybody we talk to, is actually we really talked about this a lot, but being your realest self and how do you truly stay true to that person? And I know we definitely like mentioned it a bunch of times, but just like reeling everyone in to the prime line, how do you stay true to your authentic self?
I think just a lot of it is like comes down to knowing what you value and knowing like kind of what you want and just like saying, this is what I want, this is who I am, and nobody's going to allow that to change for me. I mean, that's kind of how I see it. I just like, I'm always been like very comfortable with who I am and comfortable with, what I believe in and, what I see in people that I want to surround myself with. So I think just kind of having a very clear sense of that will help you just to stay grounded and to just like be yourself and know like and be okay with it, even if other people aren't.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that it can provide some comfort to be comfortable in your own skin in a way and be comfortable with yourself and to trust yourself in a way with who you want to be and how you want to get there. And I think that at some point in my life, back when I was in middle school and early high school years, I really struggled with like accepting that I wanted to be this person that really wanted to act on things that I thought were really important. And I bet you a lot of other young people feel that way too, based on what society says, what maybe you think your friends are going to think of you. But I think if you really want to be your truest self and let that person shine, you have to be somewhat comfortable with what you feel and think and what you want to do and just try it and be okay with, making some mistakes along the way.
Right.
And I think that that's really important because, I mean, if you can't be yourself, like there's the people that you surround yourself are also not going to really be able to support you in the best way. And I think like you aren't going to be really be able to thrive because you won't be being you and being true to yourself.
Yeah, you're right. You are.
I think that was such a great way to end the episode, just on that note and talking about values and everything. It was honestly so amazing to have you on the podcast today to not only touch on what you've created, but I think truly bringing that authenticity and reality to what you have created, how to balance it all, and just the perspective of like, yes, we are creating and doing these amazing things, but we're also humans at the same time. And we're also like, we're people and we make mistakes and we struggle with the same things. And I think bringing light to that, because when you go on Instagram and see what people are doing out there, you only see like one small percentage of it. And it's super important to reel back into we're all just people like you and me, and everyone else is just kind of, we're all kind of just, hanging out and trying to figure it out.
Literally.
And yeah, I just think that's very important to touch on. And I really hope that you enjoyed our little conversation. I hope that all the listeners got something as well. If you guys want to connect, which you definitely should, I'm going to leave all of Megan's links, important links, down below so you can get involved with her, but also get involved with what she has created. And I just wanted to end off the episode saying, everybody, the reminder to be our authentic self and listen in on what you think is important, because that's really all that matters when it comes down to it. So I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and always keep it real.